Hi guys, today I'm going to show you how to do a very simple flower applique basically for beginners. This will show you the steps that each of them do and maybe kind of give you some tips and tricks along the way. The first thing you're going to need is 2 pieces of fabric, your scissors, thread, your spray adhesive, comes in handy, your hoop, and your embroidery machine. So let's get started. Okay, so now we're ready to get started. We're going to do this beautiful flower up here onto this cute little fabric. So what you want to do is get your first fabric out, hoop it along with your stabilizer. If you don't have any stabilizer around, you can always use another piece of fabric underneath it. Or sometimes you can use maybe a scrap piece of fabric to kind of just give it a little bit more stability while you are stitching this out. Okay? Other than that, you're going to go ahead and stitch out your placement line. Now this placement line is where you're going to actually put your fabric on. It's going to show you exactly where you put it on. I know the first time I did one of these, I had bought a design, and I didn't really understand that I had to apply fabric onto this. I just thought it was going to stitch out like a regular embroidery design. I mean, I'm sure we've all been there. We've had that moment. At least I hope I'm not alone. But anyway, so this is actually the line showing you where you're going to apply your fabric. So you just lift that up, and I like to cut this little piece right here and remove it somehow. I got caught up in this little piece up here, so I'm just going to cut it. I personally don't like the little strands. There we go. Got it. I don't like the little strands there because it can get caught up in your embroidery machine and cause knots and break needles. So you want to keep it as clean as possible. Okay? Now you're just going to simply apply your other fabric, fabric number 2, on top of this placement line here. The easiest thing to do, what I like to do, is use your spray adhesive. Even if you just take a little bit, that might be a little much, but on there, spray a little bit on there. You don't want it too wet, but you want to make it so you can slip your fabric under there. Cover it up. Excuse me. I'm in Indiana, and Halloween was really cold, so now I got a cough, a little bit of a runny nose, so I do apologize for that. Okay, but as you see, now it's kind of going to stick there and allow it to stay nice and flat while you stitch out your cutting line. And that's what we're going to do now. This is going to show you exactly where you're going to cut this fabric at, and I'll show you how to do that. And this is pretty much standard for any applique that you do. Of course, you want to check your design and make sure that they've got these steps and maybe not something else added in there. But this is pretty much it. And for those of you who are a beginner, those of you who are a little intimidated by doing this, don't be. Because as soon as you get doing it, you're going to love it. I got so addicted to applique that I just started making my own and stitching them out, and now everybody in my family has something with this. So don't be scared, just jump in, do it, give it a try. And that spray adhesive really helps keep your fabric flat on there. It's not moving around, and also you don't have to hold it with your hands and take a chance of that needle jumping and getting your fingers. Okay? Okay, now we're going to cut this fabric away from this fabric. So we will start doing that. Okay, so you want to start cutting this fabric away. You want to have a little pair of scissors. The smaller the better, and I know they have some out there that kind of curve for you specifically to do this. But these are my favorite pair of scissors, so I use these. And you just simply cut this away, all these big pieces. All these big pieces. Yeah, that sounded right. Another thing, make sure that your hoop, I know you're going to be tempted to kind of maybe put it in your lap to do this cutting part, but try to keep it flat. You don't want it to move at all on you, so when you put it back onto your machine, it's exactly the way it left it and will actually stitch out perfectly. But you just get it as close as you can to these stitches. Without actually cutting those stitches. Okay, so we have cut the extra fabric, and as you can see, it's cut very close to that stitch line, but make sure you don't cut that line, otherwise you kind of have to start over again. Okay, and now we're going to put it back in our hoop and do the next stitch, which is a tack down stitch. What that does is, see how you cut around here, but there's like, it frays a little bit, comes up. This next stitch is going to actually be like a zigzag stitch over it and kind of pull all that in so it looks nice and clean before putting on the final stitch of the applique. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, so now we are doing the third stitch, which, like I said, is the tack down stitch. As you can see, it's a little zigzag, and it just kind of pulls all of the little frays and edges in so it'll look nice and clean. Okay, so we have our tack down stitch done, and I just kind of wanted to show you the zigzags here, and you'll notice that there shouldn't be any fabric here on this other side sticking out, any of those frays. If there is, you can go ahead and just kind of cut them off a little bit. Make sure you don't get your stitches though. Okay, and then we're going to do our final stitch, which is your satin stitch, and it makes it look all nice and pretty. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, so we're going to do our final stitch, and it is called a satin stitch to make it look all nice and pretty and get all those edges together. And then we will be finished with our first applique. Okay, there we go. We have our finished applique. Let's see what it looks like up close. Okay, and there it is, our finished applique flower daisy. And this is basically how applique works. 4 steps, 4 different stitches, all with a purpose, but very easy, usually color coded in your machine. So I hope this helped you, especially if you're a beginner. And don't forget to hit like if it did, subscribe because we'll have more videos coming along, and be sure to check out our Etsy shop. It is Applique Creations, and I hope you have a great day. Thanks, guys.